The first step is making a decision. So most people never really make a black and white decision that they're going to be successful or they're going to be wealthy. It's, I want to do this. You listen to the podcast, you go to the events, you get all fired up, but there's never really a willingness to make a sacrifice in order to create it, because nothing great comes without sacrifice.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Today, I have Aaron West, who is the founder, team leader of the Western Experience Real Estate Group out in Modesto, California. He's serving clients all across the valley. He's a certified residential specialist, board of directors for Boys and Girls Club, member of the Modesto Rotary, and I just learned off air, he's also runs a show. He does a podcast once a month, but also a live show called GoBundance. So, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Look forward to chatting for a few.
Hell yeah, I love it. I think the coolest thing, again, as we just talked about off camera, is learning from people who've been in the business a long time, comes from different all walks of life. Usually I kick the show off with the journey, right? The starting point for everybody in real estate. How'd you get involved, and what was it about real estate that got you to this point?
I'd been in retail for about 15 years. I worked for a jewelry store, a jewelry company, and had experienced a lot of success and was the top salesman in a 14-store chain for the last 5 years of my career with them, and had really gotten entitled and felt like there wasn't a whole lot left in the business for me to extract. I'd built a very good clientele. And my father-in-law, who'd been in real estate forever, this is 2005, my wife and I had talked about buying a new home. And then at that time, you put the deposit down on a new home. It was done 6 months later. You immediately put it on the market and made $25,000 or $30,000. And so my father-in-law had been in real estate since the 80s. We told him what we were planning on doing, and he said, Aaron, he goes, don't do it. You don't know enough about it yet. You're going to get burned. He said, but... and this is, I'll never forget him saying this. He goes, I wouldn't wish real estate on my worst enemy, and you should be doing real estate. And so I left a job where I was making $135,000 a year, literally quit cold turkey, and hopped into real estate and started in June of 2005. So it was a baptism by fire going through that whole market.
Yeah, that market was different. I was only involved in it because I was building my first house at that time. I just got engaged, and my wife and I, that was our house, and my best friend built it. But I think the crazy part was, and I had learned this later, I didn't realize it at the time, but they would just give you money for any reason you wanted. It was wild. So in our house we built was $190,000. Now it's probably worth $425,000, but at least in our area. And I think the wildest part about that was talking to my lender, who is still my lender, who survived that whole thing. And she's my age as well. So she was in her early 20s just starting out. And I look back, and my credit score was awful. I had a terrible credit score in my early 20s. My wife was making $8 an hour. And there was and she had a good credit score, but they lent to us based on bartending income and her $8 an hour. And I was like, oh my God. So now I'd never get a loan at that rate.
No, all you had to do was fog a mirror, and you could get a loan, basically.
It was wild. So what was that first year like for you? You quit cold turkey. Obviously you had some sales ability with where you were at, but what was that first year like?
So much harder than I ever thought it was going to be. And I think that's one of the things that is really difficult about real estate, is that nobody understands how hard the first 2 years in real estate are. I sold 2 houses in my first 6 months of working 60, 70 hours a week, and just trusted in the process. And then it built from there. But real estate is the most front end loaded business. And I think that's one of the reasons that the name of your podcast, Why Do I Suck in Real Estate? A lot of times you just don't, but you just haven't been rewarded yet for all the work that you're doing. Because when you get into real estate, no one knows your name. You don't have any sales, or you don't have any real estate skills. You don't have any reputation, and all of those things take time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think looking back at the journey, I actually journaled how many hours I worked until I got my first sale. I was working in a different, much like you, my career was very similar. I worked in a sales area. I worked in sports, but it was sales. Essentially, I was the middleman for high school student athletes and college coaches. And I did that for about 10 years. Same thing, hit my wall. There was nowhere for me to go. And my brother had talked me into going into real estate. He went the investing route, I went this route. But I had journaled the first however many hours it took for me to feel like I was stabilized. So for about the first 16 months of my business, I journaled how many hours I had actually worked in between those sales to get those sales. Now, obviously, some of the seeds you plant early on start growing later on and that sort of thing. So I couldn't justify going any further than that. But my first 3 sales, it was ironic, 80 hours it took for me to get my first sale. That was it. That was it. But I was only working part-time because I had that other job when I was transitioning. So it took me about 4 months to actually get my first sale. And then my second sale came in 40 hours, and then it just snowballed from there. And now I average about 2 a week. But it was pretty wild, that journaling and that just, I'm glad I did it to see how many hours it actually took. So nobody can come to me and do that. But I think the other thing is, and I had great advice, my friend and my first broker, he had said to me, be prepared to eat shit for 2 years. And you had hit it spot on, because you have to do all the work and plant the seeds and do all those things. And I think people leave the business before they hit the point, right? Like they just either don't see the reward or they don't trust that the reward is coming.
Or they don't have the financially deep pockets to be able to survive that long too. Most people go in with unrealistic expectations, and that makes it very difficult as well if you don't have support from a spouse or something like that to go all in. And I think that's one of the reasons why teams are growing so fast, is because you're able to step in somebody's proven systems and proven business model and have some of those things in place that you need to have to be successful right off of the bat.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Just the intention of when people come into the business, having realistic expectations. What should their intention be day one?
Success in real estate comes down to 3 things. It's activity, skills, and relationships. And the longer you're in real estate, those activities take on a different place as far as how much you need to do. So at the beginning, you have no skills, you have no relationships. It's all about activities. So it's how many open houses are you doing? How many calls are you making a week? How many notes are you doing? How many times are you taking people to lunch? And as you continue to do those activities, from those come the skills and the relationships that create success. So most people, when they start in real estate, they usually have 1 or 2 sales fairly quickly because they come from their inner circle. Their mom or their aunt or their cousin or their best friend buy or sell a house with them because they have that relationship with them. And so that overpowers not having the skills or the activities. Then once they get past all of those, that's when the real world hits. And I think that the challenge is that most agents don't understand that real estate is really simple. It's those 3 things that equal success. And if you focus on those and you stay intentional about building skills, building relationships, and then doing the activities, then the success becomes an inevitability.
And I think patience and consistency would categorize into those 3. And then my 3 are patience, consistency, and curiosity. So it's the same thing as yours. It's just different way that we word it. But those are the behaviors, in my opinion, that the agents need to have the first 2 years, and really for the longevity of their career in doing that. Now, how many agents do you have on your team right now?
I have 7 agents on the team and then another 5 support staff.
Nice, love it. So it's similar. I have 11, and I think 5 of them are support. So we're very close. A lot of them intermix in our hybrid roles and stuff like that. But when does building a team make sense?
Again, I like things in 3, so maybe it's 4 on this one. There's a number of reasons that people build a team, and the first and most common is ego. It's just, I want to build a team and I want to be the team leader. Then there's money, which is another reason to start a team, is some people aren't really good with people, and so they run it like a business and they're able to build a business, but that's also a rarity. And then the third is because you have too many leads. And so I was the third. I did almost 100 transactions by myself in 2014, and I just told myself I was never going to work that hard again for the rest of my life. And so I started bringing on team members, and actually one of them, Sung, who was the 3rd hire when I started the team, my first 3 hires are still with me 10 years later. He just had his 10-year anniversary today, actually. So I think if you understand why you're starting a team. And it's okay to start it off with ego, but it's really hard to build success with an ego-built team because the team leader is always competing with his agents. When you do it because you have too many leads, because you've built a really strong foundation, that's when you're able to build a business that can support you and support the people that work with you.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit because I think I would be remiss if we didn't talk more about your GoBundance show and that sort of thing. So why don't we tell our listeners a little bit about, and this is a chance for you to promote the show and promote your mastermind.
It's the mastermind. It's a mastermind called GoBundance. It is for entrepreneurs that have achieved a certain level of net worth and success. There is a men's GoBundance and a women's GoBundance. I've been in it for about 10 years now. And the show that we do is called 7 to 8. And what that means is 7 figures to 8 figures. So going from $1 million of net worth to at least $10 million of net worth. And it's not a podcast. It's not anything that can be seen except for in this mastermind. But what it is, we interview those entrepreneurs and we literally walk through their whole life in 1 hour to where they get to the point where they get that hockey stick. Because what most people have when they build wealth is everybody just sees the hockey stick.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's the work that was done that you're rewarded with the hockey stick. So we take a deep dive into basically and it's interesting, there's seven things that happen that they realize or rebirth or whatever it is that happen on their journey that's been really consistent through all of the entrepreneurs. I think we've done over 50 shows now, including Richard Branson. So we have a really deep depth of listening to these guys' stories.
So what do you think is the biggest reason why people get stuck on maybe the curve and they don't?
The first step is making a decision. So most people never really make a black and white decision that they're going to be successful or they're going to be wealthy. It's, I want to do this. You listen to the podcast, you go to the events, you get all fired up, but there's never really a willingness to make a sacrifice in order to create it, because nothing great comes without sacrifice. So the first is they have to make a decision. The second is that it's always harder than you think it is. It's like the first 2 years in real estate. Yeah. And so people want to, Gary Vaynerchuk said this, it's one of my favorite quotes. He said, people want to get rich quick, but life is long. Mm-hmm. And so people don't understand that to create real wealth, it's a compounding of the effort, energy, and discipline that you have over a long period of time. And then you create mastery in whatever niche it happens to be that you're in, and you become compensated for that mastery. So most people don't double down on that inch wide and mile deep and just stay for long enough for them to reap the rewards of it.
Yeah. And I find that with myself too, as the ADD, the shiny object syndrome, that sort of thing, where I've made a pretty good decision this year, I think, to just hone into what we're doing well. And we have 4 or 5 different little branches of our brokerage that we're working on. But I want to get really good at those 4 or 5 things now instead of, hey, I know there's opportunity everywhere. So if all the house of cards falls and for whatever reason we fail, I know I can go, there's opportunity everywhere. I know I can go make money at that point. But now it's dialing in those systems, those little tentacles of the business that are really going to help us go from where we're at and actually go from right now that 2.5 to 3 million where I'm at to that 10 is really the goal by mid 2027 or before that even. So I'm excited about that part of it. So how can agents apply that mindset? Because we're talking about, we focus a lot on the newer agents because they are the ones that tend to struggle the most. But somebody who's been in the business 3 to 5 years, similar correlation to those people that are stuck between 1 and 10 million.
The reality is this: nothing changes. You just become better at what you do. Michael Jordan started every practice with free throws or layups right underneath the basket because you have to have mastery at those before you start taking the three-point shot. And most people try to go for the three-point shot before they've mastered the layup and the free throw. And so for agents, again, it's learning to say no. My word for last year was no. I'm learning to say no to a lot more people and a lot more things, because what I found is when I say yes to something, I'm automatically saying no to something else because we only have so much time. Yep. And I think that if agents are more intentional about learning to say no to the shiny objects, there's a million different ways to be successful in real estate, but each person's personality has a way that they can be successful. I have an agent on my team who by trade is an engineer. He's really good with people, but he's not going to be a call-making machine.
Right.
So he does open houses. His goal is 200 open houses this year, which is
Wow.
4 a weekend. That's his goal. But he's been in real estate since he's closed 14 deals from April when he started to December 31st, because we figured out where his niche was and where it was that he had the best opportunity success. And then he's going an inch wide and a mile deep into that space.
Yeah.
And for most agents, they have an area. There are people that are not really good at making calls, but they're really good at networking. So they should be at the charity events, at the Rotaries, at those places. Then there are agents that are really good making phone calls. They should be sitting down making phone calls, and really finding out what your strength is in real estate and then doubling down on that is what prevents them not doing that, is what prevents them from having the level of success that they want.
Yeah. So how does somebody find that niche for themselves? Like maybe they're stuck in a rut. For example, somebody who's like maybe really good at phone calls but doesn't want to do phone calls, or maybe somebody who is a great networker who can get in front of a crowd, who can talk, but struggles with just making that transition to an event. I think I know what you're going to say there, but
there's a couple of thoughts that came into my head. And the first is, successful people want to help you. You may not believe that, but successful people got to their level of success because people helped them. Nobody does it by yourself.
Yep.
So the first thing that you need to do is find people who are successful in real estate, and then ask them to coffee, ask them to lunch, ask them a ton of questions, and see what resonates with you. And then to your second part, where a guy who's really good with phone calls but doesn't like making calls, or a person who's really good at networking but doesn't want to step out of there, that's where the sacrifice has to come into play. That's where your why has to be big enough for you to sacrifice your natural, comfortable place to achieve what you want to achieve. That's just for me, the long and the short of it is, my why was big enough to where I did things that I was good at, that I didn't necessarily love, to get to the place where now I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want.
yeah. Yep. And that's awesome. So what's your daily routine look like?
My daily routine now is very different than it was when I was selling full-time. I don't do very much sales anymore. I pretty much am just taking care of the team.
Sure.
So daily routine is I get up every morning. I've got a checklist of 25 things that I'm trying to accomplish for the day. So I start off by going through and looking at my checklist and checking off the things that I did on the previous day. I journal, I meditate, I work out. And then I come into the office, and depending on the day, for us, Mondays and Thursdays are training days. So we have our team meeting on Monday, and then Monday afternoon we have buyer training, and then Thursday we have negotiation training. And then the rest of the week is spent with team meetings, making calls to my database, because we still have a business where people refer because of me. And so I'm reaching out to those people, staying in touch with them, and trying to create more opportunities for the team.
Yeah, and you had mentioned too, journaling, meditating, working out. Is that a negotiable in your day?
It really is, and it's easy to get distracted too. Full transparency, I'm a very disciplined person, and we bought a brand new house, remodeled it, and it was a black hole in my life. And so I went a couple months without doing hardly any of those things at all. Mm-hmm. But the trick is that you have to give yourself permission to get back on the bus again. So those things are part of my life and have been for a long time. And just like everybody, you get sidetracked for a little while, but then you get back on the wagon and get back after it.
Yeah, that's 100% too. And same thing last week, I got sick and I missed the gym. I normally go 4 or 5 days a week, and I missed it and came back today, and I was like just reborn again. Like I was ready to roll. So I was excited. I'm like, oh, I got this podcast today. It's the first Monday of the new year, which we're on January 5th here, and having this interview, and I'm like, I'm just stoked today to get rolling. So it was like a lot of endorphins hit me today, we'll put it that way. So it was good. So I love this. I think you're bringing so much here. But as we wrap up here, what's the best advice you can give to an agent who feels stuck right now?
Go find people that are farther along the journey than you. And I'm gonna after this, I'm gonna give a nugget for you that will change your life, for whoever it is that's listening. Find people that are farther along the journey than you, and then commit to them. The key to success when it comes to writing goals, when it comes to a lot of different things, is putting it out into the world. And if you tell somebody that you respect that you're going to go to the gym 3 times this week, and you ask them to follow up with you on Friday, you're going to go to the gym 3 times this week. So for those agents that are stuck, find people that can be accountability partners to you, that you can go to, and that they can help you achieve the success. And then the nugget that I want to give is, a busy person is busy for a reason, and don't put your perception of reality onto them. So if you reach out to a person who's successful or busy and you ask them to go to coffee and they say, I'd love to, but I can't be this week, it needs to be next week, call me. And you call next week and they're busy, it's not because they don't want to, they're just busy. And you're not high enough on their priority scale for you to insert yourself into their business until you become consistent with it. So once you do find that person and you go to coffee or lunch or whatever it is, ask good questions. But know this, people who are successful are hit up by sayers all of the time. They are looking for doers. And every single successful person at some point in your conversation will give you homework, either unknowingly or knowingly. They'll talk about a podcast, a book, something that they've done, something that they're interested in, something. If you take that nugget and you go read the book, or you listen to the podcast, or you take whatever it is that they give you or that they say you should do, and you do it, and you reach out to them and you say, hey, I listened to a bunch of episodes of that podcast. I would really love to get together with you and talk about it. With 100% certainty, they will meet with you again because you showed that you were a doer. If they gave you a book, whatever it is, do it and then reach out to them. Let them know that you did it. And with 100% certainty, they will meet with you again, which gives you another opportunity to build a relationship and take from their skills.
Yep, love it. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've taken is anybody who gives me a book, I try to read it. Like, no questions asked. If they give me 10 titles, I'm not going to go do that. But if they physically give me a book, I got a couple of them last year. That's number one on my priority list is to finish that book, because one, it was a gesture that they feel like I'm going to get value out of it, and two is I feel like I owe it to them to do that. And successful people are going to do those sort of things. So, Aaron, where can people find you?
If you want to find me on Instagram, it's the Aaron C. West. You can also look us up. If you have anybody who's thinking about buying or selling real estate in the Central Valley, it's the West Experience Real Estate Group. We service basically all Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin counties. We've got a pretty big footprint and an absolutely rock star team.
Yep. And then what is somebody who's maybe in that $1 to $2 million range looking to get to 10? How do they get involved with GoBundance?
They can reach out to me and I can make a connection. You can look up GoBundance, but if you reach out to me, I can put you in touch with the right people who can answer all of the questions that you have and get you involved with something that nothing has changed my life more other than the woman that I married than being in this group and being surrounded by people who are way farther down the journey than me in every single area of my life.
Love it. Love it. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. There was so many great nuggets in there. I appreciate it. And thanks again.
It's my pleasure, man. Have a great day.
All right. See ya. So that's a wrap here on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me and our guests. The people you hear on the show really aren't guessing. They've been doing the work. They've been doing it for a long time. They're sharing their behaviors, their habits, their successes, their systems that actually lead to real work, real success. So please subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next conversation. Until next time, remember, you don't suck. You're learning. It's the beginning, or maybe you're in a rut, but you don't suck. So make a few changes, stay curious, stay consistent, and please keep coming back.